I want to transition to the NBA. I teased the Phoenix Suns a little bit in that example. But the Phoenix Suns and the Lakers played last night. Phoenix Suns pulled away in the fourth quarter, 108-90 at Staples Center. And let me first just say this before I address the Phoenix Suns. The Lakers just simply aren't a very good basketball team right now. It pains me to say this. I am so dissatisfied with the team. It's like there are parasites and tapeworms just eviscerating my insides when I have to think about how the Lakers have been playing, how they're trending right now, the way that they looked last night. LeBron retweaking an ankle. It's devastating. It's crushing for me to see this team play so poorly, so mediocre, so pedestrian. Some nights they look a little bit above average. Most nights they look well below average and well below 500. And the trade for Russell Westbrook, I love Russell Westbrook so much. You can see his jersey is behind me. I love Russell Westbrook. The trade's been a disaster so far. It's been a disaster. I tried to convince myself of otherwise. I tried to convince myself that I could see the beacons of hope for why the trade would pan out and how it's been actually more beneficial than a hindrance to the team. But so far, it just hasn't. It's blown up in their face because the problem is I thought it'd be for circumstances like this where I was fully on board and I could see the logic behind trading for Westbrook because I thought, okay, in the horrible chance that the Lakers end up losing a couple key starters or worse, losing Anthony Davis or LeBron James for an extended period of time, then trading for a guy like Russell Westbrook in a circumstance like this, he'd be able to carry the load, carry you to wins because he is a superstar. And I figured, okay, if they don't have three superstars, they at least have two. And so far, even though he is a superstar, he hasn't been able to mesh with the team. They haven't been able to mesh fully with him. And they're not able to win without at least like all three of the superstars, or they're playing one of the worst three teams in the NBA. And even then, it's a struggle. They lost 2 games to OKC earlier in the year. They had to barely eke out a win against the Detroit Pistons. What's going on here? What are we talking about? So for me, it's just been depressing because I love Russell Westbrook. I love the Lakers, but they just don't have that continuity. They don't have that chemistry right now. Their lack of depth is showing. I understand that Malik Monk is in the NBA's COVID health and safety protocols list, so he's away from the team for a little bit. But Dwight Howard, even though he was a DNP last night, he hasn't been that good this year. Rondo's been unproductive. THT and Carmelo Anthony have just been hit and miss. Now, I give Carmelo more of a pass since he's 37. THT's been very inconsistent for the Lakers this year, and Anthony Davis is perpetually injured. So, again, I do recognize that history would suggest that when it comes to Russell Westbrook, at least, that he's more of a second half of the season type of guy. That's typically where he's able to leave more of an imprint and to help actually turn around franchises is in the second half of the season. We saw that with the Rockets. We saw that with the Washington Wizards last year, where they were atrocious in the first half of the season. And then the second half of the season, they started to gel. They started to come together. And he was playing at the top of his game. That was then. This is now. We're still waiting for that light switch to be turned on. It's flickered at times, but most of the time it burns out. And that's the difficult part, is the only 2 consistent guys that the Lakers have had this season are LeBron James and, honestly, Austin Reeves. Those are the two most consistent guys they've had. Austin Reeves is in the NBA's health and safety protocols. And LeBron, who was, again, amazing last night, 34 points. He has scored over 30 points in 8 out of his last 12 games. And he was 68% from the floor, like 13 of 19, perfect from the free throw line, 40% from the three-point line. LeBron is still amazing. But what we're seeing is that his dominance doesn't rub off in a positive way anymore on the rest of his teammates. He can't carry a team through his play like he used to. Years past, when he was at the peak of his powers, when he was playing at an elite level, that would rub off on his teammates where their levels of play would elevate. Unfortunately, that hasn't been happening as of late. And it's no fault of LeBron's. He's in his 19th season. And the fact that he's able to be this productive in his 19th season is a testament to his greatness. But then to exacerbate the already long list of issues within the Lakers locker room right now, he tweaked his ankle in the game. Now he tightened up his shoe, laced it up, and continued to stay out there for a bit. But that's a problem. That's a major problem. And that's very concerning for me. So from that perspective, now it's really like Russell Westbrook has to be the savior now, because he's the only healthy remaining superstar that the Lakers have. And he just hasn't been able to carry the load yet. I mean, again, you look at the box score for him, looks like he had an efficient scoring night. 22 points, 10 of 20 from the floor, which, yeah, that's 50%. That's great. 10 rebounds, great. 5 assists, great. 7 turnovers. That's abysmal. That's just careless with the basketball. That's avoidable. Maybe not all of them, but at least 4 of them are avoidable. And those are what's going to just cost this team night in and night out. And when you're not a good defensive team, when you don't have elite shooting, when you're older, if you just give the ball away for free to the other team, you're going to lose. And that's what's been happening. So that's from the Lakers' perspective. Just disgusted personally. But the Phoenix Suns, let me say this, right now, as we are currently constructed right now, and when we look at the current NBA landscape today, the Phoenix Suns are the best team in basketball. Now, will that opinion change once Klay Thompson comes back with the Golden State Warriors and is healthy? Yeah, probably, because I've thought that the Golden State Warriors have been the best team for the majority of the year. But given the lack of consistency on Steph Curry's part in recent weeks, the Phoenix Suns are the best team in basketball right now because they have the most familiarity with one another. So that familiarity level is there. They've got great coaching. They have great trust. They've got elite scorers in Devin Booker and Chris Paul. They've got steady basketball play from guys like DeAndre Ayton and Jay Crowder. And we've seen improvements from Mikal Bridges, and especially with Mikal Bridges and Cam Johnson and Cameron Payne. Those guys have really improved, and they haven't taken a step back. In fact, they've just continued to play at the level that they played at all throughout last season. And so, as I mentioned, they've got elite shooting. They've got leadership. They got great coaching. They have good interior play. They're top 5, both offensive and defensive team in the NBA. So they play defense at an elite level. They share the basketball. They can close. So I just think right now, the Phoenix Suns are the best team in basketball right now. I think especially the ascension of Mikal Bridges is really big. They went 5-2 without Devin Booker. So it's not a totally reliant Devin Booker team. It's not a totally reliant Chris Paul team. They have depth, and each guy on the roster contributes and plays with a tremendous amount of confidence. And it's showing because right now they've got the best record in the NBA, not just in the Western Conference. And that's perfectly a reflection of just how good this team continues to be. They continue to be. We dismiss them. They continue to be great. Now, again, I give them a narrow margin ahead of the Golden State Warriors only because Steph Curry hasn't been quite as elite, quite as explosive as he was to start the season. But even then, they're only a half game back for the top seed. They're only one loss. They only have one more loss than the Phoenix Suns do. And Klay Thompson's coming back, just working his way back into basketball shape over the next couple of weeks. So, again, overall, right now, if I had to look at the NBA's landscape today, Phoenix Suns are the best team in basketball. Without question. Without question, they're the best team in basketball.